Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. I hope you guys are all having a great day so far. So today we're building yet again another one of these very modern and luxurious homes in the Sims 4 in one of my favorite worlds, which is Tanzerr Valley, on a 50 by 40 lot. So it's not 64 by 64, but it is a generously huge house, and I just felt like building something unique since we've been building quite a lot of these like beachfront like villas and whatnot. So I felt like might as well just change it up a bit and go back to these like regular normal builds. Obviously I'll have some more summer builds up later on if I do plan to create some more unique ones, but for the time being I'm planning just to create like these like modern houses that I really enjoy building in the Sims. But yeah, so far we're just pretty much like getting ready with like utilizing this platform tool once again with these like very modern houses. I really love the way I utilize the platforming tool for this entire build because I just feel like it makes the house look very unique, and how every single part of this house is on like different floors and stuff, and I feel like it just looks really cool in my opinion. And I kind of like tried to like steer away from utilizing stairs for the exterior, which I feel like the platforming tool looks a lot more like unique and it makes it look a lot more fancy in my opinion. And I sort of like, for this speed build, I kind of just like skipped a few steps ahead and like didn't want to waste you guys' time a lot, so I did cut a lot of like the parts where I felt like was a lot like not really that necessary to watch, if that makes sense. So it is a relatively shorter speed build than usual because I usually make them like around like 20 minutes or so, but this one also includes a tour at the end, which is the reason why it is a little bit longer looking, if that makes sense. So this entire speed build is pretty much like 10 minutes or so. But yeah, so far we're pretty much like done with the entire exterior already, and I really love the way it turned out. I just feel like it looks really nice. Although it is quite boxy, it is still like quite unique in my opinion. I feel like what makes it really unique is like the platforming tool and whatnot. And I actually saw a pre-rendered like AI image sort of like build of this house, which actually inspired me to build this sort of house in the first place. And it was relatively unique looking in my opinion. I feel like it looked really cool because it did have a lot of like this like platforming sort of situation in the real house as well. So I just felt like it was being really nice to incorporate that into my Sims build as well. And I really liked the way certain elements of it actually like stood out to me, such as like this pool shape and like the layout of like the actual like platforming and stuff like that. Because initially I was never really thought to like lay out my platforms like this in a Sims build, if that makes sense. Like, I don't know, it just looks really unique and I'm really happy with how it turned out. And we're also utilizing a lot of like these wood and concrete materials throughout like the entire build as well. So I did actually opt with a nice like open wood color texture that came from Eco Lifestyle. Right now we're using like a really dark chestnut sort of like color on the first floor, but that does end up changing because I just felt like it was a little bit too strong and I wasn't really utilizing a dark brown color anywhere else around like the entire house. So instead I actually just changed that and we went with the same like sort of like light brown color that we have on like the second and third floor. And I also utilized a bunch of different water features, such as like different swimming pools in different areas, as well as like the fountain tool and some actual like fountain objects that go into like the fountain and whatnot, because I just feel like it really does make sense with these sort of like taller houses that are like very like modern and extravagant, because in real life they do have these like nice water features and like these like nice pebbles or whatnot on top of like the waters at like the front of their homes, which I feel like look really nice and extravagant. So I kind of wanted to like replicate that sort of like same idea for this build as well. And we're actually building in a 3-story house, and I feel like despite being 3-tiered, it's not necessarily the biggest house I ever built, but I just feel like it is justified by how much like floor space that we actually have, because I feel like this house really does like being a lot more like indoor outdoor, if that makes sense, because I just feel like there's a lot of balcony area and space and like a lot of like porch area and whatnot, and I feel like it really does like connect really well with like the indoor outdoor sort of experience with like the floor to ceiling windows and whatnot. I just feel like it's a really open floor plan and space that your Sims can like really hang out and chill out in. And we're actually starting off with the furniture for the exterior, just adding some like nice simple stuff here and there. I'm using the Dream Home Decorator objects because they're honestly like my favorite, especially when it comes to these like very modern and extravagant houses. And I tried to go with these unique layouts, so I tried to make it look as interesting as possible by like utilizing some end pieces where you usually wouldn't really see it, but I just feel like making something unique. And I also utilize these circular coffee tables, and I sort of like layered them on top of each other, and they're actually not flickering because I actually utilize the tool mod to lower each one by like zero point 0.1 decimal so that they're not all on the same level, which prevents the pixels from like arguing on which one is supposed to be showing first, if that makes sense. And I really like the way it turned out because like it's kind of like a unique shape, especially because it was like all custom made. It was something really unique to add to the build. And I don't know if I mentioned it a few moments ago, but we have like this like special like room that is not really connected to the rest of the house, but it's sort of just like there in my opinion. And I thought like it was kind of interesting. And initially I wanted to create this space into being like an office or whatnot, but then I thought of like a swimming pool there would be quite interesting because it's on like the second floor. I wish we could like have some sort of system where we can create a swimming pool but also utilize the like bottom part of the room, because I just feel like that is so realistic in a lot of these like luxurious houses. And I feel like in a real house you wouldn't really have a second story sort of like pool like this and have it go all the way down to the bottom, if that makes sense. You would have it be like something that's like very shallow, so you would still be able to utilize the bottom of like the swimming pool area and turn it into whatever you want, which is what I would have done. I would have loved to turn that into like some sort of like office, and I feel like that would just look so interesting. If there was a way to sort of like fake swimming pools, that would be such a good idea in my opinion, because it just makes it look a lot more interesting in my opinion. And we're going around and adding a bunch of different foliage throughout like the entire home. I utilize so many different like greenery and like a lot of like plants and hedges and just like a bunch of shrubs to make it look a bit more like lived in and nice. They're all kind of like positioned well and specifically, so it does look like quite neat and tidy. And yeah, that was kind of like the main goal, to be honest. I wanted it to have a lot of greenery, but I wanted it to look well kept, if that makes sense. And we're actually starting off with a simple like sort of like outdoor eating area. So we have a nice barbecue area, a nice seating area, as well as like some super nice lounge areas and whatnot. And I'm also utilizing the daily rewards objects that we got a few weeks ago, which is the bin, which I really do like using. And I also really like utilizing that cushion as well. I feel like that is such a nice object to have, especially the fact that like everyone can access that is such an amazing object in my opinion. It's such a small thing, but it really does make such a big difference. And we're actually moving on to the interior of this actual like house now, and we're actually starting off with the living room area, which is on the bottom floor, which you can't really see from the exterior, but I still wanted to make it as nice as possible. And I kind of went with this unique color that I don't really go for, so I used the Dream Home Decorator modular seaters, but I used a different version that doesn't really have like a lot of detailing on it. And I utilized this like nice grayish sort of like brownish sort of swatch, and I really liked the way it looked. And I also used some Spa Day slabs, which I really love using as coffee tables for like the center of like really luxurious living rooms, because I just feel like it looks really realistic. A lot of these like luxurious like coffee tables are like these like flat rectangular ones that kind of like layered on top of each other, so I tried to like mimic that sort of like situation. And I also utilized the kitchen cabinets from Dream Home Decorator to create like some sort of like modular sort of like TV unit below the floating TV on the wall, which I really love doing. And I actually utilize these kitchen cabinets, the tall ones, to make these like unique looking sort of like literally kitchen cabinets, if that makes sense. So I actually just like placed a wall where I was initially placing my kitchen and just sort of just like placed it on top of the wall, so it kind of just looked like it's facing the other way. And by doing that, we kind of sort of like faked a way that looks like there's a bunch of different like cupboards or whatnot that kind of just like blend in with like the rest of the kitchen, which I really liked doing. Initially I was going with like a more white kitchen, but then I turned out to make everything a little bit more darker, and I really actually liked the way it looked in the end. And I actually believe I kept the island counter a lot whiter, so the cabinetries are actually white and the slab on top is black, which I really do like the way it looks, and it matches well with like the rest of the kitchen. And yeah, that's pretty much it for like the entire kitchen. And I also faked the oven, which I placed on top of the cabinetry, which sort of like removes itself here and there when I'm trying to place different objects, but I'll make sure to add it back before I upload it to the gallery. And you guys might have noticed that that it might seem like I forgot the bin and the fridge, but I do obviously go back and add those to make sure it's all functional and stuff. And I actually add it where the cabinetry is, just so it like blends in with like the rest of the kitchen. And we have a very nice simple like dining table here, nothing too special. It's not really that big, it's just like a 4-seater, but I still really like the way it turned out. And I'm kind of going with like this like grayish theme. I sort of like locked it in that I'm going with like this like really darkish sort of like grayish brownish theme for this entire home, which I tried to replicate throughout like the entire area where there was like a lot of like common areas where you would go to, so like the kitchen and like the general bathroom and like the living rooms and stuff, because I believe we have about 2 or 3 different like living room areas in this build, as you guys would see. And this is one of the main bathrooms, so I kind of just wanted to make it look as interesting as possible. So I kind of created like my own custom like walk-in shower unit, as well as like utilize one of my favorite bathtubs that came in this entire game. I really do like the way that bathtub looks. I kind of just use it in almost every single one of my builds because I just really like the way it looks. I believe it's from Dream Home Decorator. And yeah, this is one of the second living rooms, and this is on the second floor, so it's exactly where the balcony is, where it faces out towards the other views of like the city. And I really love the way this actual like living room turned out. It's kind of like the same as the one downstairs, but it's just a lot more smaller. And I really like the paneling that I placed on the backside of the actual like TV unit area. I just feel like it looks a lot more interesting. And we're also starting off with the first bedroom, and I believe we have 4 bedrooms in total in this entire build, which I'm honestly not too mad about. Like, I don't really mind having a low amount of bedrooms in my opinion. Like 4 bedrooms I feel like is kind of like average in my opinion. You guys can definitely go back and like add and change whatever you guys want, especially like adding extra rooms onto those balconies, because I just left a lot of space for you guys to like, if you guys want to change anything or whatnot. But I'm really happy with how it turned out. And we kind of went with like this like nice white and beige sort of color for the first bedroom, and we're going for like a more black sort of like color style for the second bedroom. And I believe, if I was to guess or like assume, I would assume that this one would be like the master bedroom, primarily because it has access to the second floor like sort of balcony area that is kind of like private to their own like room, as well as like their own swimming pool and whatnot. And they don't really have like their own walk-in closet, as you guys can see right now. I created like this like small little thing in like the corner of the room, but yeah, it's nothing too special or fancy, but I still really like the way it turned out in my opinion. And I don't really show any of the bathrooms that I create in these builds, so I really do apologize if you're for some reason interested in seeing those bathrooms, but you guys can definitely see them in the tour at the end of this video, which you guys will see in a few minutes. And this is sort of like the small like office gaming area, which I really like creating. I've kind of just like got inspired by like stuff that I've seen in real life, and like my sort of like own room and like the rooms that I've been in and played in, because I just feel like it looks really nice in my opinion, like having a very nice like table that goes across like from like one side of the room all the way to the other side, and it's like all connected and floating. I just really like the way that looked in my opinion. And off to the third bedroom, which I believe is on the third floor, we're kind of going with this like nice emerald green color, which I feel like is quite unique. I really do like the way it looks, and to be honest, this wallpaper reminded me of the wallpaper that we've seen in the Love Struck trailer, which I haven't mentioned in a while or ever, to be honest. But I'm honestly really excited to see like what that Love Struck expansion pack is gonna like bring to the table in terms of like decorating and building for the Sims, as well as like obviously the gameplay is like the main aspect of it. But I'm really interested in seeing like what it's gonna like have in the pack, because I just feel like, what can you really do with relationships, you know, for like an expansion pack? From what I've seen, I feel like it's really interesting, especially the curved swimming pools. I'm so happy that that is actually coming into the game. So finally, I don't really have to create fake swimming pools anymore by using those spa day slabs, because I've been always utilizing those when I wanted to create a swimming pool that was like curved, and it was like really annoying. So it's kind of nice to have curved swimming pools naturally in the game now. And this is one of the final bedrooms that we're creating for this entire build, which is relatively huge. They don't really have anything special to them, but I just really like the way they looked. And we sort of went with this like nice like wooden theme for this entire bedroom, in my opinion, which I feel like looks really nice. I feel like it's one of my favorite bedrooms that I've created, especially because it has such a nice view, and most of the area around that entire bedroom is glass, which I feel like looks really cool. And yeah, I just went around the entire home, just like added some extra features and stuff, added some like unique like wallpaper features and like lights and stuff, and also like touched up with like the front of the entire home, which I kind of like neglected and left towards the end of the video, because I just wanted to like focus on the actual like main house, because that was kind of like the main point of this entire build. And yeah, I just went around and added some like extra decorations and details here and there to make it look as nice as possible. Of course, adding my mail, as well as like hiding the bin behind one of the columns, which you guys will see in a few minutes. I'm just going back to the kitchen and adding the bin, as well as like the refrigerator, as I mentioned a few moments ago. And yeah, that is pretty much it for this entire speed build. Thank you very much for watching. If you guys liked the video, let me know what you guys think by leaving a like and subscribing. And I would also love to know your thoughts on this build in the comment section below. And I also have a bunch more videos if you guys would like to check those out. But thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next video.